I think at the end is very much down to clients, and they want good ideas well executed. They want innovation, they want solutions, and they want a competitive advantage. If we are part of the solution, we can provide it, and it doesn't matter if it is technology, if it is content, if it is programming or whatever else. They don't care that we have a share of the game if we were the people that contributed to create the game in the first place. So I think the problem is gone, and it's a problem of the past, not a problem of the future.
So we're back to talent for a second, which is not surprising because talent was the number one issue facing our business. As we look at the consolidation across really the holding companies and the fact that most of the talent in this business, one way or another, is working for or with a holding company, let's talk a bit about how you're driving your own executive organizations to provide more flexibility for compensation, more flexibility for entrepreneurial opportunities for your talent, to retain and keep attracting that talent. How are you pushing and hopefully in cases succeeding to do those special things for that top 10% of the talent within your organizations?
I think it's a huge challenge in the industry because there's so much day-to-day pressure for the leaders to do what they need to do. I think one of the things I've tried to create is a greater mobility of our leadership being exposed to and understanding different challenges in marketing and business across the world. I mean, I spent a lot of time in Asia and coming back. Just recently, we just started working with a Korean car company, Hyundai Kia. I spent some time in Korea. I mean, you see the growing nationalism, whether it be in Japan or Korea, China, brands, a brand sophistication, homemade brands, the ambition to market in a very different way, I think all presents learning opportunities to challenge a lot of the status quo in people's minds. And I think that's the biggest challenge we have at a leadership level is to create the space and the time to really challenge ourselves. And that's why, to a certain extent, we focus on looking at the design industry, looking at the music industry, looking at other industries who have undergone tremendous change and use radical innovation to reinvent themselves to give ourselves those proxies.
I think you've asked a very big question because the talent is the single area in which we all compete more than anything. The real competition is having the best talent of today and the future talent for tomorrow. And of course, I mean, we can debate all the financial aspects, variables, fixed, options, shares, but that's obvious that we all know the story. I think that the other thing which perhaps is less obvious is that what people want from an agency, from a group of agency, is success, is fun, is a vision for the future. They want to be part of the game and part of the company that they see that at that time in history has more chances to get there, to innovate, to do something different. So it's not just about the financial side. It's very much about the aspirations of being part of the future because the good people want to be there.
I think I want to add on that. A lot of the most talented leaders I work with in this industry, and not just in my agency, across all the different agencies, they're motivated by doing amazing things. They're motivated by creating tremendous product and driving ideas. They're not motivated by greed and money. Otherwise, they'd walk on Wall Street and they'd be bankers. They're not. They're interested in really achieving amazing things. And I think we've heard a lot from the earlier panels as well, that integration and working in a collaborative team sense, whether it be with the media owners, whether it be the creative agency partners, design agencies, PR agencies, and with the clients as well. I think teams win, not individuals. And I think the pendulum is swinging from very extreme separation to one that's much more about teams working together. The last thing I'd like to say, none of you can see it, but this little screen in front of us, it has far tougher questions from the audience than these guys are asking us. They stream up. I mean, they never stop.
Nick and Mainardo, I'd like to thank you very much. For our final CEO group, I'd like to invite Dominic Proctor, the CEO of Mindshare Worldwide, and Maria Luisa Francoli, CEO of MPG. This session is going to focus on claiming the high ground. Interesting.
So I'm gonna jump right into it, and it is funny, as Nick mentioned, there's about 5 or 6 questions on the screen, and 4 of them, and they consistently are this way, are about talent, just phrased differently. And we're going to get into some of those on this panel. I think what's interesting about this sort of age-old question that we started off on panel number 1 about the notion of will strategic planning go back to creative agencies or back and forth, I think on reflection as we sit here this morning, it's probably been a wonderful distraction for the agencies and provided some air cover, because the real issue that's happened, I think, the last couple of years is that it's been quite clear that media agencies have claimed the strategic high ground in the business in a way that they just weren't half a dozen years ago. And maybe while others have been obsessing about a very trivial issue, at the end of the day, you guys have invested, advanced, and really occupied an enviable seat at the right hand of the marketers. I guess the first question, just to start off with, and I think we've got an audience question for panel 4, as we look ahead 3 to 5 years, and we'll ask the audience first this question. Do we have it? Yeah, owning the high ground. Let's ask the audience first, and let's talk often about how you're positioning your agencies to keep moving ahead. Owning the high ground. Media agencies 3 to 5 years hence are best positioned to continue to remain among the most valued resource to marketers. Audience, is that true or false as we look at the years ahead? That is something. So, while we've had such distractions in this sort of age-old debate, it's clear that you guys have not only moved ahead, but the audience believes that you'll continue to move ahead. So question number 1 to both of you is really, what are you doing with your own organizations to help that prophecy self-fulfill?
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everybody. I think media agencies today are in an excellent position to address some of the top worries, top concerns of advertisers. The first one is integration. We have spoken a lot about it, and I think we have a leading position to deal with that. The second one is accountability. Accountability is the biggest concern, and we saw yesterday in the procurement workshop how accountability is not going down but increasing. Another one is efficiency. So we need to be very efficient, and again, this is our task for many years, and we need to go forward with this one. And the final one, I would say, it's innovation. And in today's world, with thousands and thousands of new touch points, I think it is our right and our responsibility to explore with these touch points and establish new connections between the brands and the consumers. So yes, the answer is definitely yes. We will be in the driving seat in the future in terms of leading the way. And what we are doing in our organization to ensure we are well equipped to deliver to our clients is about people, training, talent, engaging with new formats of training, engaging new people from different industries. I think in our group, a lot of us come from different industries than advertising and marketing, which has brought different points of view, and a point of view very much concerned with accountability. In our specific case, we come a lot of us from banking. And methodology, to have a good, thorough, sound methodology that allows us to take risks with a safety net, something that brings us back to earth. And finally, technology. Technology. More and more we use technology to deliver our service. And having the right technology to have all the understanding and being able to deliver is another key point that we are applying in our organization.
Yeah, I mean, it's first of all reassuring that this particular audience overwhelmingly thinks that we've been doing quite well. It'd be rather depressing if that wasn't the case. But I don't think yet that it's still fast enough, John. I think we've all understood what the opportunity is, and this conference last year was, setting out that opportunity in conferences before that too. And we are making progress in the right direction, and you've noted that, and thank you for that, but it's still not quick enough. So the question, what do you have to do to get to that position in 3 to 5 years' time beyond what Maria said? I think it comes down primarily to 2 things. One is to continually restructure the agencies in order to make us more accessible and buyable and simple for our clients to work with. And the second, which you did mention, is to invest particularly in technology. That's going to be the discriminator when you look at other kinds of agencies with whom we compete. The ability to afford to invest in technology, of course, then springs all sorts of other questions up about how and how much we get paid in order to afford to do that on behalf of our clients. But for me, those would be the two critical plans.
I'm going to use, we're going to go to two questions off here that are popping up a lot, and so I'll give you both a heads up on which questions I'm going to ask. The first question is going to be about creative talent, which we'll talk about in a moment in your organizations, and the second question is about Google, and so we'll get to that in a second. So two of the questions here are talking about, for media agencies to stay ahead, the audience is believing that more and more investments will have to take place in hiring of creative talent inside your organizations. So I guess let's just talk about that for a second. Are you committed and looking to hire more creative talent? And then I guess organizationally, I think Chuck Porter again mentioned this yesterday, how do you create that right kind of environment inside your own organizations where this leading creative talent will want to embed and remain in a media agency kind of structure? So let's start with that one first.
Okay, in terms of creative talent, in our case in particular, we are very open. We are very open and very flexible, and we seek collaboration of different academia, different professors for specific issues relating to the entire agency, but also for specific client needs. We have this open flexibility that I think allows us to tap from the most appropriate talent and most yielding to creativity for particular cases. And I think that's a way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, not to repeat that, but just to add to it, I think certainly all of the major hires that we have made within Mindshare in the last 24 months have been from outside of the media agency business. They have been from creative shops, they've been from clients, they've been from digital specialists, they've been from advertising agencies. So yes, I mean, recruiting a different, broader band of talent is absolutely critical. How do you make that thrive and survive in the agency? Well, you have to do what all the other panelists have been saying this morning, which is you have to crash down bureaucracy, you have to break down the silos within the company, and allow the most talented senior people the freedom to work across various different accounts in a collaborative way. It goes back to this whole apparent contradiction between having specialists who are integrated. There are two things which do apparently contradict each other, but if you can find a structure within your company that allows you to employ specialists, but to ensure that they don't work in specialist silos, then that's the answer.
And I applaud the CEOs because I think we've been getting some practical answers to the questions in this morning's session. But I'd like to put something on the table that's real life again, and it goes directly to you, Dominic. Mindshare Entertainment is a great example. You look at one of the great campaigns of this last decade, which is the Dove campaign for Unilever. Ogilvy's certainly done an incredible job from a creative standpoint, messaging, etc. And yet for the last 2 years, I think on the Super Bowl, maybe on the Academy Awards, the actual creative that was put up there in two of the most important media events of the year were actually, if I'm not mistaken, created by Mindshare, not by Ogilvy, for Dove. So there's a real-life example of who's taking the lead. So I wonder if you could talk about that.
Well, yeah, I can. I mean, we're kind of agnostic about where the idea comes from, Michael. We don't mind where the idea comes from. It could come from Mindshare. It rarely does in the history, but it might well do a lot more in the future. But whether the big idea, the big creative thought comes from an advertising agency or a media owner or a client or a public relations company, we don't care. Our job is to activate that big idea in the most appropriate channels for our clients. So I think, for me, the question about where the idea should come from doesn't trouble me. What troubles me is our ability to make that idea live and thrive.